Hi, my name's Rob Barfoot from Watsonley UK Limited. We've been working now with SA Partners for about 18 months. Three things probably stand out for me through working with them. One is, unlike normal consultants, they come in to train and mentor. They leave you with all of the skills and knowledge to propel your business for the future. So that to me is a key plus. Second thing is, in terms of they give you the confidence to be able to move around some of the lean business model structures that they have and advise you based on experience they've had with other clients. So that to me is also invaluable as a sounding board. I think the last thing, which is really great for me, it's absolutely fun to do all of this. My lasting impression, I would recommend SA to anybody starting on their lean journey, and it's been an absolute blast. Thank you.
So what is a lean business model and a lean business system? What's the difference? Well, basically, the lean business model is the framework for you to think about this, and the lean business system is how do you interpret that to be working most effectively in your organisation. So what's the system of making lean work for you? Is it more focused on, say, the people and the tool side, or is it more about the extended enterprise or the strategy? The answer is it'll depend on each organisation, and actually it will change over time, because it may be that one area or another is more important today in perhaps your first roadmap for lean than in the second or the third. So having a look at the lean business model, what we find is that it's a good way of interpreting lean thinking. So a quick overview of what we think lean is, and really I like to go back to the three key areas of Muda, Mura and Muri. So if I asked an average person in an organisation applying lean, what is lean about? I'm sure they'd talk about waste removal, focusing on the needs of the customer, improving efficiency, maybe effectiveness, but generally it would be about reducing waste in a process from this much, getting the process down so it's leaned out, inefficiencies, waste, lead time, etc. squeezed out. And that's Muda. The second area, Mura, is getting rid of unevenness. So, for instance, do you find yourself with a big workload at certain times of the month? Do you find yourself certain days of the week? Do you find some seasons or other where workload's going up and down? Can we find a way of levelling things out and making life simpler? And the third area, Muri, or burden, overburden, this is what makes our life difficult? What makes our life frustrating? Do we keep having to fix the same old problems? Do we do the same old reports that no one reads? And actually what we found by looking at lean over the last 20 years is if you start off with a Muda focus, focusing on waste, it can feel a little disengaging to people, because waste might feel a little threatening to your jobs and so forth. Whereas if you start with a, could I make your life easier, to anyone in the organisation as a question, and start talking about, well, what would be the three things that we could do to make your life easier, you're starting with a much more engaging conversation. I'd like to welcome you to this 8th in the video series, and today we'll be having a look at strategy deployment and the practice. So now I'd like to introduce Mike Cox, who's the General Manager at Valet's site in Clydach in South Wales. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Peter.
So, you know, most of the companies I go and visit and talk to about lean tend to be sort of automotive and aerospace and industries like that. So what challenges does taking this sort of lean continuous improvement approach into a sort of process industry? What sort of problems and issues does that raise for you?
I guess lean or continuous improvement is something that you wouldn't associate with this kind of heavy industry, if that's what we want to call it. But I think that, you know, there really is a place for the application of these tools and the implementation of a culture such as this in all industry.
Right. And the site here is presumably quite an old traditional site and been here many decades.
It's over 100 years, yes.
Okay. And presumably has hundreds of people here, or?
Not hundreds anymore, 200 plus, but maybe in days gone by, 20, 30 years ago, there would have been upwards of 1,000, yeah.
Right. So why did you decide to go down this sort of lean continuous improvement route?
Well, I think that in today's day and age, we can't stand still. I mean, all organisations have got to move forward and make themselves better and more competitive. So I think that there was a pretty persuasive reason just based on that alone. I think also customer expectations are higher and higher, get higher and higher. And really there is a need for us to understand what customers want, and we need to be responsive to them as well. I think that's been reflected in what we've done over the last 2 or 3 years.
Right, okay. And I see from the picture on the wall that that you've made a sort of map of where all the different tools are, and I can see that, you know, TPM's being used here, or 5S here, or whatever, but tools where you actually need them.
Yeah, it's good for the employees to see that, I think, and it's situated in a reception area so everybody who walks through there can see it. But at the same time, it's a good reminder to everybody where the activities are taking place, and you know, and it tells a story actually, because you'll see that we're debottlenecking, we're using the appropriate tools around the refinery where we're trying to debottleneck, and so on and so forth. So there's a reason to it as well.
In terms of the strategy deployment activity, how did you go about doing that?
Well, we use the yellow board approach, which this is the refinery level yellow board, if you like.
So this would be the management.
That's right.
Level.
The management,
yes.
the management team for the refinery would actually uses this yellow board every week as a sort of focal point for our weekly meetings, and it really speaks to the strategic direction that the refinery is going in, and the KPIs that underpin that. Maybe
we could go and have a look at the lower level and see what they look like.
Sure.
Well, my name's Damien Boucher, and I'm the production coordinator in the kiln plant. My main roles are improving process quality control and being responsible for any continuous improvement project we've got on in the area.
And I believe you were one of the first areas as a business to start using the yellow board process. Is that right?
Yes, and since it's begun, it's turned out to be quite successful in identifying small problems or large problems with our process. And it's easily identifiable, and we can quickly resolve them. Well, basically, people are talking about exactly the correct things that they need to be talking about during a morning meeting. Like we hold a shiftly morning meeting based around this yellow board at the start of a day shift, 12-hour shift, and a night shift. And all the team members are involved standing here, and they go through each of these KPIs and look back on the previous 24 hours or whatever time period to see what issues they had.
Sure.
To see if we're still keeping within the control band.
Okay.
So it focuses everyone's attention on what you need to be talking about, because quite often before the yellow board was introduced, we found that we were having meetings, but the focus would get directed somewhere else onto a subject which was not important, but
not the most important.
Not the most important, and we've identified that these are our most important issues. So if we focus our meeting about that, we're all talking about the same thing, and it highlights any small problems that we have that we can deal with quickly and get us back into the control zone.
Hey, this is the warehousing and packaging department. I'm Steve Barfoot, and I'm the superintendent of the area. So I'm responsible for the running of all packing machines, all the processes for sieving the products, and the final packaging, really.
Okay, very good. So maybe we could pick up on one or two of the improvements that you do. Maybe some of the TPM activity.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could go and have a look at that.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, TPM, we set it up on 3 critical bits of equipment, which is the sieving machines and the 10-kilo packing line. Basically, we take it out for 1 shift per week, where we do TPM on the machine. So the operators will change all the elements, check all the oil levels, check all the oil, any oil leaks, and then one specific part of the machine will be cleaned down, and then because it's a big machine, so we'll pick one part each week and we'll focus on that really. Same with and we came up with a simple check sheets where we just tick off whether it's in good condition or needs changing. So it's basic stuff, but it's makes a difference, big difference.
Very good, and that fits in with the other areas like 5S and problem follow-up that you're using, and the safety in the area as well.
Yeah, it all comes together really.
So you're using sort of the appropriate set of tools and techniques to achieve what you need against the yellow board projects and targets and so forth.
Exactly, everything fits together.
Mike, what would you say are the tangible benefits you've got out of the CI activity over the last couple of years?
I think we've seen a significant improvement in process control over the last couple of years, and also the number of customer complaints has reduced significantly as well.
Right.
I think we can attribute that significantly to the work that we've done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was interested in the yellow board process that you talked about, and we've seen examples of. At the face of it, it looks to be about sort of numbers and projects and very hard tools and techniques, but it seems to me it's more about engagement and alignment and getting people to want to do improvement.
That's right. All our people contribute to yellow board meetings, and I think the important thing is that everybody feels as if they're empowered and able to contribute now. I think that the yellow board has provided that vehicle for all our people. So that's really contributed to the engagement piece. No, I think the biggest benefit has been the number of improvement ideas that have been generated through this process. And there have been hundreds of ideas over the last couple of years that have been implemented directly as a result of this work. So it's had to have had a positive impact on the refinery overall.
In terms of behavioural changes, what are the sort of things you've noticed in the business?
Well, I think around the refinery there's been, throughout the site, a lot more ownership taken around yellow boards. People feel, as I said earlier, empowered to contribute to those meetings, and therefore they take on a lot more of the problem solving themselves. And overall, the whole process has allowed a lot more people to kind of show their leadership qualities, maybe than they were ever able to do before.
Right, so it's giving them some space to control their own destinies and work out how they...
Yeah, and express themselves. I think it's a lot more fun coming to work when you can express yourself and feel as if what you're saying and doing is being heard and seen.
Sure. So I suppose this is a key step in making the approach sustainable in the business.
That's right. I think that if it was purely tools based and heavily sort of management driven, I don't think these things survive longer than a year or two. I think that hopefully, anyway, I mean, only 2 years into this process. Hopefully this will allow for a sort of long-term sustainability of this continuous improvement culture here. Yeah.
What have been the main learnings for you personally, Mike, over the journey?
I think there's been a lot of lessons to be learned along the way. I think with regards to implementation, I think it can be quite difficult to ensure that the levels of engagement throughout the organisation are maintained at all times. And I think we certainly learned that there's a need to keep a particular focus on that. At the same time, I don't think that's been a significant issue for us, but it's certainly something that maybe I didn't understand as being as big a thing at the outset of this as what it turned out to be. So sure. I don't think we did a bad job of it, but I just think that it was something that was quite interesting to... There's a lot of obviously managerial energy involved in sustaining this culture, and you cannot step away from it for any time. It's got to be a consistent message and the same level of visible commitment from management at all times, really.